Hey guys, it's me Saran back with another video. This video is gonna be about the Oscars and Selma being snubbed at the Oscars. As I'm sure you guys all have heard, Selma only received a Best Picture nod and also a Best Song nomination. The movie was not nominated for Best Director for Ava DuVernay, or Best Actor for David Oyelowo. I'm horrible, and I'm sure I just butchered that. And a lot of people also feel like the lead actress that played Coretta Scott King was also snubbed, Carmen, and I know I can't pronounce her last name. They say that they were snubbed. In addition to the Selma snubs, there was also pretty much a complete whitewashing of the Academy Awards this year. All the Best Picture nominees are white. All the Best Actor nominees are white. All the Best Actress nominees are white. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, no, I didn't get there yet. All of the Best Director nominees are white, except for the director for Birdman, who I want to say is Mexican. Pretty much everything's white. All white, everything. Trending topic went viral yesterday, Oscars so white, where they were like making fun of it. Oscars so white, they asked to touch my hair. Oscars so white, you know, whatever they called Mike Brown a thug, you know, that type of thing. But there's some really interesting other stuff going on where there have been lots of think pieces flying around about, you know, what does this say about race as well as gender, because there were also no women directors nominated, no women cinematographers nominated, no women producers nominated, no women outside of the Best Actress categories. There were no women, and there were no black people, and there were no people of color. It's mostly a white male affair this year at the Oscars, and there's been, you know, a lot of talk about it. It's the whitest Oscars in years, in 20 years. So a lot of people are talking about it. And a lot of you have asked me to make a video on it, so I decided, okay, of course I'll make a video since you guys, you know, you want one. Before I start, I do want to say that I feel like, and I kind of hinted towards this in my Grammy video, I feel like award ceremonies are archaic, and really they should be on their way out, to be 100% honest with you. The majority of the time they get it wrong. There are rare occasions when they get it right, but the majority of the time they do get it wrong. And I also feel like with the rise of the internet, award ceremonies like these are just outdated. There's no way to keep up with the times. You know, the Grammys is the same thing. Who gets to say this is the best rap album of the year, for example? Like, there's so much stuff on the internet that they probably haven't even heard. So who gets to say that this is the best? And I kind of feel the same way with the Academy Awards. Who gets to say that this is the best? Especially when you have a voting board that's 93% white, 76% male, with an average age of 63. Like, so old white men basically get to tell us, the public, that this is the best. And of course they're kind of gonna, like, fuck it up, you know? So I kind of feel like Academy Awards and you know, Oscars and Grammys and all these award ceremonies need to just be completely, either get rid of them or fucking revamp them, really, redo them, overhaul them. So with that being said, I was reading an AV article on the white Oscar board and the Selma snub, and there was some really interesting stuff going on in the comments section. I'm gonna link it for you guys so you can, like, go check it out. It's over 1,000 posts now, so it's really long, and there is some gross nastiness in there, but there are a lot of really interesting conversations being had. And the number one excuse that I'm seeing, and this is the number one excuse that I see all the time for everything, that I'm seeing for people trying to explain why, you know, Selma was snubbed and why the Oscars and the award ceremonies and everything are so white, is, this is the excuse, well, maybe the best movies won. Like, I can't even say it because it just sounds so ridiculous coming out of my mouth. Maybe the best movies were nominated. Why can't we just judge the movies, you know, or judge the art off of their merits and not bring race and gender into it? That's another one of those statements, you know, like Kendrick Lamar's "why don't people respect themselves" statements that sound nice. You know, they kind of sound nice on paper, but when you really break down what you're actually saying, it's absurd. It's fucking ridiculous, and it doesn't make any sense. You know, I'm sure we can all agree that films and music and, you know, various art forms should be judged based off of their merits and not the race or gender of their creators. But when you see, you know, award shows time after time after time awarding the same types of people, white people, and especially white males, you know that they're not just being awarded based off of their merits, you know? Because if you guys truly believe that that's what's happening, that art is really honestly only being awarded off of merit, and it's just some kind of magical coincidence that time after time it's nothing but white people and especially white men, basically what you're saying is that you truly believe that white men are better and that white people in general, on a broader scale, are better. You know, sticking with the Oscars, you believe that white men consistently make better movies, are better actors, are better directors, are better editors, are better cinematographers, are better producers, are better, you know, screenwriters than women or minorities. Every single time you use that excuse, oh, well, they're just judging it off the art, and this is just the art that won, and it's just a magical miracle that everyone is white. You're basically saying that you think that white people are better than the rest of us. You know, and it's like when an entire year's worth of nominations in film or music or whatever are majority white and male, either the Academy, sticking with the Oscar, you know, thing, either the Academy, the voting board, has a problem with race and gender, or white people are just better at making movies. Those are your two options. Those are your two options. That's an either-or kind of thing. Either the Academy and by extension Hollywood and by extension our society has an issue with race and gender, or white men are just magically better at everything. And I think we can all agree that none of us feels deep down like white men are just naturally better at making movies and naturally better at everything than minorities and women. Like, I think we can all agree. So before you use that excuse, you should really stop and think a little bit more critically about what you're actually saying, you know? And a lot of people have also, I put this on the AV Club, I wrote that, and someone responded to me and said, well, actually, you know, the issue is not the actors and shit like that. They said the issue is that white male filmmakers get first crack at the best stories and screenplays. You know, that's the problem of Hollywood and the industry, and it's their responsibility to fix it, not the Academy and their little award ceremony. And I feel like instead of looking at the bigger picture, just like how I said in my Racism is an Octopus video, you have people that focus on one little small part of the picture. They focus on the sucker on the tentacle because that's what's right in their face. They don't focus on the fact that the sucker is attached to a tentacle and the tentacle is attached to an octopus, which is the main issue. So it's like, yes, white male filmmakers get first crack at the stories and the screenplays. But when you say white filmmakers get the first crack at the best stories, the best screenplays, what does that mean, right? What is best? What is the best? What determines the best? You know, you have a movie like Boyhood, which is a movie about a white male experience in this country that gets touted as universal. This is a universal story. This should appeal to everyone. So those of us that are not white male and white male children are expected to kind of look past our differences and find our similarities within the story. So I feel like Academy, voters should be required to do the same thing. There should be no, well, we have to have this, white male point of view for it to be relatable. And that's an issue that's deeper than just the Academy and even deeper than Hollywood when you even start talking about other art forms. There's this idea that the white experience, and especially the white male experience, is universal. That white people are the norm, that white people are the standard, and that their stories should be universal for all of us, I remember that was one of the main critiques I had of Lena Dunham's Girls when Girls first came out, that people were saying, oh, she's the voice of a generation, and this is, a universal story. And I watched the very first pilot episode, and I felt like I couldn't relate to anyone. I couldn't relate to any of the characters. I couldn't relate to any of what they were going through. White people, and especially white males, and their coming-of-age stories are not the standard. They're not universal. They're universal for the majority of the Oscar voters because the Oscar voters are 93% white and 76% male. But even then, they should be required, again, just like the rest of us, to kind of look past differences and try to see deeper into what makes a picture a good picture. Do you guys get what I'm saying? And I also feel like people really like to just dig their fingers into their ears and, la 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 la, act like they don't understand the issues and try to just make everything seem like it's a big joke and it's a big coincidence. The second most popular excuse that I hear after, well, maybe white people are just better at everything than everyone else, maybe white men are just better at everything than anyone else. The second most popular one that I hear is, well, maybe black people and women just don't want those jobs. Maybe they're just not interested, Someone on the AV Club was like, well, how can you prove racism and sexism? I was just like, I love when people ask me this question. I love when they ask me to prove that racism and sexism exists. Like, could your white male privilege, be any more intense that you need me to prove to you that racism and sexism exists? It's just fucking hilarious. White male privilege must be amazing. That shit, white privilege is a hell of a drug. I say that on Tumblr all the time. How they say cocaine is a hell of a drug from that famous Dave Chappelle skit. And I really mean it. That shit, distorts, your brain and, your vision. And that shit just, be having you, tripping. I wish someone could, bottle it and I could, sip it for a day so I could, feel what it's like to really feel in my core that, racism and sexism don't exist. That shit must be awesome. But anyways, when people say that, and people say that a lot about so many different things, well, maybe there's just not that many black models because, black girls just, don't want to be models. Maybe there's not that many, women in the tech field and black people in the tech field because they're just not interested in tech. Maybe there's just not that many, black filmmakers and women filmmakers and black women filmmakers because they're just not interested. First of all, no one wants to be a part of a marginalized group. No one wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I want to be part of a marginalized group today. I want to be oppressed and discriminated against because that shit just sounds dope. That shit just sounds awesome. No one wants to be a part of a marginalized group. Black people and women grow up watching and loving movies just like everyone else. Watching and loving television just like everyone else. Watching and loving, anything that you can think of. We have the same, we're people, especially black people. A lot of white people have this, again, cultural illiteracy where they feel like we're an alien species from outer space. We grow up doing the exact same things that white people grow up doing. We have a lot of the same interests. We like movies. We want to make movies. We want to write books. We want to do this. We want to do that. So to say that, well, maybe they're just not interested, again, the willful ignorance, just the prejudice and really the racism. You think that we are not the same. You think that we're different just because we're black. It's really bizarre to me. But then people will be like, oh, but that's not racism. And then like someone said this to me in the AV comment section, oh, well, if black people are so interested in movies, name me 5 black like directors that are like making good work. I was like, there's so many like black people, and again, and women, and I hate to keep saying like and women, but I'm black and I am a woman, and I feel like there's a lot of intersectionality with this issue that are out there trying to make great work, you know, but they can't get funding, but they can't get, you know, picked up by a major distributor. 2 years ago, Ava DuVernay won Best Director at Sundance for her film Middle of Nowhere. If she had been a white man, that film probably would have been picked up by a major distributor. It would have been, you know, a mainstream release. It probably would have been a box office hit. She probably would have already had a Best Director Oscar. She won Best Director at Sundance 2 years ago, and her movie didn't go on to do anything. And you have people that really want to believe that that's just like fate, or, you know, like that they say, oh, but you can't prove that racism and sexism had anything to do with that, even though white men, and then when you start getting into issues of race, white women that, you know, get similar accolades, have their whole careers opened up in front of them. You know, Jennifer Lawrence, great example of being a woman but being white, got her Oscar, you know, and she's been in fucking how many movies since then. Meanwhile, someone like Lupita, who won an Oscar, hasn't done very much. Someone like Monique, who won an Oscar, hasn't done very much, you know. And then I also find it really offensive to say that there just aren't that many black and women actors and actresses and shit like that, because look at television, right? We have so many, you know, black people and women and all different kinds of people on TV, and so many shows that are doing so well because of their diverse casts, that for you as a white person to be like, oh, well, they just aren't interested. It's really like, again, like the white privilege, like you pop the molly and you sweating. Like you're just like not living in reality. There's like a real disconnect from reality, and just like a delusion, like a fucking mental delusion of what's really going on, you know? It's like nobody wants to be part of a marginalized group, you know? Nobody, black people and women and Asians and Latinos and, you know, whoever else, they don't just not want to go into these professions. Like, people are interested, and you can, like, go check the numbers of, like, men and women are graduating from film school at similar rates, you know? Men and women, minorities and white people are graduating from tech schools with engineering degrees at similar rates. But then women and minorities can't get hired. And that's not because they're not interested and they don't want to. You know, they're interested, but they just don't have the opportunities, you know? And just to get back to the Academy Awards, what the Academy Awards in Hollywood are supposed to do is to reward great work by filmmakers, regardless of gender, regardless of race. And if they did that, they would be encouraging people from all walks of life to create by representing them, you know, by showing them being rewarded for their good work. But instead, we see the same thing over and over again. White males being rewarded for the same stories over and over again. Do you think I need to see another fucking movie about a great white war? American Sniper? The Imitation Game? No. I want to see something different. And then you have, you know, all these in 6 months, you're going to have all these think pieces about, you know, how the cinema and the theater is going down the drain. Because I'm a huge movie lover. But even now, when my husband and I go see movies, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, all these movies look so fucking boring. They all look exactly the same. When we went to go see Selma, they showed a preview for this movie about these kids doing time travel. I think it's called, like, Project Alpha or Alpaca or something starting with an A. And it had 5 leads, the five kids, the 5 friends, that they build this time machine and they start like moving Project Almanac. And they start moving in and out of time. All 5 of the kids are white. I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, why are all 5 of the kids white? Like, why do all 5 of the kids have to be white? Like, it's, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in seeing the same white faces over and over, and then seeing the same white faces get rewarded over and over. Like, there are other stories that could be told, you know? And then you have people that are like, oh, well, that's like reverse racism. Nobody wants to discriminate against white actors. What people want, again, just like I said in my Selma video, All people want is equality, and all they want is an equal shot. White people feel like that's taking something away from them, because I feel like in the back of their minds, they know. Like, they know that we have real issues with race and gender in this country. And they, like, know that equality, like, means that, you know, there's less slices of the pie to go around, you know? If you're white, and if you're a white man right now, you have fucking 3/4 of the pie, and the rest of us are fighting over the quarter that's left. For us to all get an equal share of the pie, your share has to get smaller. And they don't want that. But it's like, don't make up all these bullshit-ass reasons that don't make any fucking sense. Oh, they don't want the pie. They don't even like pie. Like, we like motherfucking pie too. Like, you know, there's no shortage of qualified black or female creatives. And I also don't like that, you know, Hollywood and the Academy have this, you know, this golden white standard of what makes a good movie. Because there's tons of people that are saying, like, well, black people aren't making good movies. Like, even the movies that are being made aren't good. You know, my husband and I saw Beyond the Lights, which was also written and directed by a black woman, and we loved it. And the main actress, who also played the lead character in Belle, which also came out in 2014 and was amazing and was snubbed. Her name is Gugu Mbatha Raw, I believe. She was a luminous, just a radiant, just light. Like, she's just an amazing actress, and I really feel like her performance in Beyond the Lights could have garnered her a Best Actress nomination, but it wasn't a white indie flick. It wasn't a white historical drama. It wasn't a white period piece. It wasn't a white movie about a war. It wasn't a white gangster movie. It wasn't a white movie about Iraq. And it's like, people say, oh, well, we need to, like, you know, get more black people and more women and more minorities into the good, the best stories in the screenplays. But it's like, us telling our own stories is also good. Like, I don't fucking need more black people in a Clint Eastwood directed movie about a motherfucking war. I don't need that to be the only vehicle to get black people into the Academy Awards. A movie like Beyond the Lights, which is about a motherfucking suicidal pop star, that's battling with depression to the point where she's attempting suicide. It was a meaty role. It was a great movie. It was really relevant. It focused on the celebrity culture in this day and age with the internet and the social media and the way that affects people. And I thought it was really well done. But people will say, like, oh, well, that's not one of the best stories and one of the best screenplays. But then I'll say, well, how is it any different from Birdman, which focuses on a down-and-out actor, you know, who's struggling with depression, who's trying to stage a comeback. It's literally the same story, except one revolves around a black woman who's a singer, who's an R&B and pop star, and one story revolves around a middle-aged white man who's an actor, you know? Like, I don't... People's stories are important, as everyone always says. Representation is important, as everyone always says. And basically, these award ceremonies are saying, like, fuck y'all. Like, if you're not white, if you're not a white man, like, your stories are not important. Even if you do, by the grace of God, make a movie about the civil rights movement or being the help or being a slave, even that is still not enough, because the Academy can't remove their white old male heads out of their white old male asses and stop tickling each other's old white wrinkly balls long enough to actually even attempt to identify with other people the way they ask all of us to identify with them. I don't give a fuck about motherfucking Stephen Hawking. You guys want to know something true? I don't even know who Stephen Hawking is. I don't care about Stephen Hawking. I could care less about a movie about fucking Stephen Hawking. Like, why does that have to automatically get nominated? Oh, because Stephen Hawking is, like, a big deal to, like, white people. Like, I don't give a fuck about him. Like, shit's whack. It's dumb. And again, like I said, these issues with the Academy are only indicative of larger issues in Hollywood and larger issues in our society with race and gender. And if you feel like that isn't true, excuse me, then you're probably a part of the problem. And if you let any of those excuses fly out of your mouth about, well, maybe black people and women just don't want to be a part of certain industries because black people and women don't fucking watch movies or TV, even though 42% of the theater going population are women, and you got some issues. I don't know what else to say. Sorry there was a cut, because clearly I just went to go into the phone. And I'm going to read you guys some cool comments that I did like from the AV Club. You should read the comments, because they're pretty cool. To say they chose the best, not the best of each race is naive and stupid. The industry is dominated by white men. Statistics show Hollywood execs are more likely to produce films with a white cast than a white production team, who consists of the Academy, a staggering amount of older white men. They may not do it consciously, but it's an embedded racism and sexism, which makes them naturally stray away from any film with a POC element to it. There is a concerning mentality of POC/women equals mediocrity in Hollywood. You cannot deny that it is so much of a coincidence that all the best films are made by and have a cast of white people. To ignore such an obvious bias would be ridiculous. Like, y'all are ridiculous. Y'all are motherfucking ridiculous. Anyone looking at the history of the Oscars that concludes they just happen to ignore movies not made by or about women of color rather than having a systematic bias is a fool. Reasonable people can disagree as to where the problem is. Is it that non-white males rarely get the studio support to make films, that they never get the promotion to get on the radar, that they never get nominated, all of the above and more? It's all those things. But the history of the Oscars is incontrovertibly and overwhelmingly white and male. And no, 12 Years a Slave does not balance the scales. And I like that comment because you have a lot of people that are like, well, 12 Years a Slave won last year. And basically what y'all niggas is saying is we only need one, black minority movie to win every 10 years. We don't need more than that. Just like those are the same people that said there isn't a sexism problem in Hollywood. Catherine Bigelow won for The Hurt Locker however many years ago. So just because that one woman won out of over 100 years of movies, that means we don't have a sexism problem. You guys, again, you're willfully ignorant. Like you see, but you don't want to see. Like you would rather believe we don't want none of the pie. We like pie, bro. Any more? Selma. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't judge the quality, but there's absolutely the temptation to look at a snub like this and think the general mentality may have been, we gave the blacks one last year. They don't need another one this year. It's not exactly a secret that Hollywood has an issue with minorities of all kinds. There will never be concrete proof one way or the other, so it's silly to say the prejudices don't exist. And I've said in videos before, people that ask for proof of racism and sexism are ridiculous. Those type of people want you to say, oh, Harvey Weinstein, showed up at my front door and left a burning cross. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, like that was racist. Or they want you to say, like, the head of Paramount told me that I'm a woman, so he doesn't give a fuck. Like, they need, like, some extreme-ass shit. Like, they don't believe in, like, prejudices and unconscious biases and things like that. They just think, like, well, if it's not blatant, it doesn't exist. The Academy doesn't decide awards arbitrarily. It does not exist within a vacuum. It's a reflection of Hollywood and society, and the fact that only 14 black performers have won an Academy Award in history is a travesty. It's racism in the media reflecting a racist society. You can literally sit there forever and keep saying we'll never know for sure if the Academy is racist because, yeah, no one from the Academy will blatantly say I'm a racist, but that's a cop-out. Oh, this is the last one I'm going to read because this one's awesome. Somebody said, doesn't the fact that this is the whitest Oscars in years speak more to the fact that this year is an anomaly as opposed to the standard? Somebody said, even the blackest and ladiest Oscars are disproportionately filled with white men. The degree of the tilt is unusual this year. The tilt is not. I like that comment because, yes, you're going to have tons of people that say, like, oh, the fact that we're making such a big deal about it being so white means that every other year it's not white. No, it's white every year. It's just normally they at least throw the blacks and the women a bone. This year they said, fuck y'all niggas. and fuck y'all bitches. And nothing for y'all. All the awards for the white men this year. We gave y'all 12 Years a Slave last year, and now it's back to business as usual. Whitey. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm going to post the AV link. You guys should read it and read the comments, because the comment section is pretty good. And I'll probably post some other links as well to some other things and some facts and some stats. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's long, but there are a lot of issues here. And I just feel like people are, like I said, they're just woefully ignorant. They just, like, don't want to admit. And people don't like to admit to shit like that, because then, again, you have to give up part of your slice of the pie. And nobody wants to do that. But nobody wants to admit also that they don't want to give up their slice of the pie, because then they feel like they're a bad person. So instead they try to just ignore it, or like come up with all these reasons why it's not true. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I won't be watching it. I won't be watching the Grammys. I don't even care about who wins, either one. I know what my favorites are, and that's enough for me. So food for thought as always. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. See you guys next time. Happy Friday. Peace. Have a great weekend.